You've been following the Malaysian stock market for quite a while. You know, one area that on the surface seems very undervalued is the furniture industry. And the last time people really cared about this industry was, you can say, around 2014, because it was then where Malaysia experienced a big depreciation of the ringgit thanks to 1MDB and all that. Went from 3 something to 4 something, right? That benefits the furniture industry a lot because we are mainly an export-oriented industry, especially to places like the US. And so suddenly, you know, our furnitures become cheap, and so the demand will suddenly increase in all these developed nations. And of course, in moi, too busy to find stock ideas, check out FIRL Pro to shortcut your research time and effort by 90%. 10% off link in the comments and description is where a lot of all the famous names, right, in the furniture industry are there. In fact, we are, I would say, a global leader when it comes to a lot of this manufacturing. I think even some sort of design. Yeah. And some of the names, right, is Lihan, Roncan, which is formerly Latitude 3. You have Homerit, but there's a few here that didn't mention Microchip Board, Heavier Board. And you can see they all sort of, apart from mobile holdings, they all kind of follow the same pattern, right? You can see on your left, there's a big jump, right? So that's around the 2014 to 2015 run-up. But ever since then, it's been suffering. However, if you look at the P ratios, if you look at the cash they have on their balance sheet, it's really, really good. In fact, you know, if I had all the money in the world, I would pretty much buy all the furniture companies and then take that money to invest in other things. Unfortunately, you know, I don't have that much money. But the question is, why do I say that, right? And the reason I say that is because it's a sign of where the business is, where there's not a lot of reinvestment opportunities. And I would say at the same time, it's not so easy to just pay a dividend yield, right? So you can see, you know, some companies can pay, you know, double-digit dividend yield. Some is as low as 3.8%.
Yeah, I think the reason also why there's a double-digit
because the
dividend
price is
yield
down.
here.
Yeah, and so it's backward-looking. So if they can maintain the payout, it'd be very, very good. But the first thing we have to ask is, why is it that the the share price is dropping? What are people expecting, right? And it could be the case that the earnings and the earnings quality is going to drop. And when that drops, your dividend yield will drop as well because the share price tumbles.
Yep. So let's take a look at some of the reasonings of why there's a decade fall. So the first one, before we go into that, is that we are the top, I would say, wooden, whether it's a bedroom or kitchen furniture supplier to the US. So you can see that we are number 2 over here, just behind Vietnam. So you can see that Vietnam is actually the leader, and we are even like beating China to that. So I think it's because of the tariff. They are being charged like a higher tariff or import duty as opposed to like Malaysia. So the key thing over here is that Vietnam right now, they are having like a 20% tariff rate to export to the US, whereas for Malaysia, it is going to be 19%.
Yeah, basically no difference, right? That's the key. So initially, we thought it would be advantageous because we would get around 20%, but Vietnam will get 40%. Yeah, that can make a difference because then, you know, US will hopefully switch to us.
Yes, exactly. So you can see over here, there are some of the companies in terms of their total sales contribution to the US. You can see Lihan, Pohua, Rongkian, they are all like 87 to 90%-ish. Majority of their customers are from the US. Whereas for Mobilia and Home REITs, this one is at least they are being more defensive. They only have like 20 to 30% to US. Then a majority of them are to the EU, whether it's EU or Malaysia or other Asian countries. And as MJ pointed out, most of these, or actually all of these companies are in a net cash position. And you can see that their cash is actually growing a lot. But you can see that their dividend is actually stagnant, or at least they didn't really increase the payout. They have been maintaining like a certain level. So I think that's also a reason why the market didn't like them, because they are not really sharing that cash to the minority shareholders. It's not really like a very minority shareholder friendly. And as you can see, their ownership also majority is held by certain families. That runs the operation, and it's going to be like passed on to like the next generation one.
So hopefully the next generation will be different. Hopefully.
Yep. And yeah, so speaking about Vietnam, they are being the key leader, right? So I managed to only find like one company that is kind of like a pure wooden furniture that exports to the US. So
facing the same thing. Right?
Yes, exactly. So they are also like, I mean, they are down, I think also 50 to 60%-ish. Numbers also is pretty bad. Okay, so on top of that, there's also companies that is exiting the furniture business. So you can see over here, SWS Capital, they reported like just like a few weeks ago only. They say they want to exit their furniture business as part of their business rationalization and right-sizing exercise. And I believe also this segment, they are making losses. So that's why they think that, they don't want to do this business also. And I think there's a lot of small businesses that operates furniture. They also start to fade away, or they are close down their business. So we may see some sort of like consolidation in terms of like companies in the furniture industry. Okay, another risk is that the 15-year and also 30-year fixed mortgage average in the US is actually still high. If you can compare with 2016 level to 2025, you can see that it's actually like a 2x increase in terms of interest rate. So that led to very less US home sales, whether is it new home sales or whether is it existing home sales. You can see that the inventory also is actually at a quite a low level, and there's not much of a people actually buying homes at the moment in the US. And if you look at the average retail sales, right, or at least people who's buying furnitures in the US, it has actually been stagnant for 4 years. Actually, you can see that the numbers didn't really grow.
I mean, part of it is because the housing affordability is actually at the all-time low for the US. I mean, combination of many things, but one big one is the interest rates.
Yep.
Right, 6-7% mortgage rates. Like, how do you?
Yep, exactly. And if you also notice, right, there's actually a trend over here. So you can see that 2016 to 2020, there's a slight increase in terms of on sales. So that's why their numbers for Pohua, Lihan, they're all doing very well. And especially for 2020 to 2021, there's like huge recovery. So that's why their share price also went up. But lately, it has been like pretty bad and stagnant. So that's why their results also is not so good. So the key thoughts over here, number one, the catalyst for furniture will be actually US reducing the interest rate, especially for home mortgages. So if let's say they reduce it, most likely people will actually start to buy more furniture, because there's like houses, right? It's a necessity to actually have furniture. However, the key risk will be on top of the tariff, 19% tariff, and also on top of the SST hike, utility hike, wage hike. Another risk that actually we didn't, or at least a lot of people didn't really take into account, is that China and Vietnam might go to non-US markets, where like other players may have positions. So this one is like your mobilia and home REITs. So if you notice, right, their sales contribution is about 20% to 30% for the US. The balance should be around like these areas. So if let's say China and Vietnam do go to these areas, right, I think their numbers also will be pretty bad. Yeah. So this will be the last straw. Then the third one, which is whether there will be consolidation happening. Well, you can see S already shut down their furniture business. So most likely also more companies will be closing down, or maybe they will be right sizing their organization size. This is kind of like similar to the glove situation also. So yeah, so right now the furniture industry is not in a good, I will say, time to actually look at, because of the future headwinds that they're going to be facing. So yeah, that is basically our final thoughts. Anything you want to add?
No, I think it's leaning more towards a value trap. And again, for us, it's only consider value play if there's going to be a catalyst, if there's going to be a change in fortunes, basically. And what we see now is that that's not the case, right? Again, home ownership is not quite there. And again, a lot of them do wooden, right? So that's what a lot of US homeowners like. They like wooden furniture. But if you look at Asia, for example, we still like our plastics and metals and all that. And so what what they think really matters a lot. And you just look at the housing situation for the US and even Europe, it's really not there, right? People can't really afford houses. Everything's quite expensive. And now you got tariffs as well, so things are going to get even more expensive. So I just don't see it, right? I don't see a change. I also don't see any other markets where suddenly they want to have this, this surge of demand of wooden furniture. In fact, if you go on TikTok or any of these social media channels and you look at all the home channels, right? So like Kuchester Homes, there's the other one, by John Au. You can see, right, that when they visit like for their videos, one of the visitations, not a lot of wooden furniture, right? It's a more modern, more sleek. Maybe I give you some stones, like some wood, but not full wood, maybe there's one part that is wood.
Yeah, I think also it's because of termite also. They want to prevent like termite from actually going into that.
Well, that, and also the type of wood. There's certain wood where termites cannot eat because it's too hard, right? But those are very expensive, right? Like chungao wood, things like that, right? So you have to, I wouldn't say it's dying, but it's certainly deteriorating in terms of an interest. Because I even speak to homeowners and let's say they have a Balinese style home, right, where there's a lot of wood and all that. And, they can spend a lot on the renovation, but the people just don't want to buy those homes, right? Because they're not interested. So overall, we are seeing multiple directions that it's not that great. And And I just don't see a way out as of now, unless they make a pivot into something different.
Yeah, and also we talk a lot about this, about industry insights inside FIRL Pro. So if you are interested to join our community, we have a 10% discount link in the description and comments. But before that, just want to share with you guys some of our track records of performance for August 2025. Malaysia is doing pretty well. If you follow our videos in the past, right, you can see that the number is actually starting to like improve a little bit by bit. So right now it's about 38%. For the global portfolio, it's about 15%. The boring portfolio, which covers dividend stocks in Malaysia, is about 6%. And if you want to see what are the names behind these portfolios, right, you can check it out inside FIRL Pro. And on top of that, we also do share information when we meet management, when we meet CEOs or industry experts. Most of this information might not be available publicly, and it is only exclusive for our FIRL Pro members.
Yeah.
So if you want to get a taste, you want to see how we do our write-ups, our management notes, what is inside the SIB course, we have a free sample for you. It's totally for free. All you need to do is just click on the link in the description or comments and register yourself, and you can read and gain access to some of this information. And also, just to share with you guys a little bit, we have stock that is inside our FIRL Pro Malaysia portfolio, which is KGB, and we initiated around this time where the share price is about like 1 ringgit and 20 cents. And since then, it has like almost 5x already. But sadly, we didn't really add more during the April dump. We
add other things, but yeah.
Yep, exactly. So yeah, if you want to check out FIRL Pro, I'll make sure to do so. All the links will be in the description and comments. And with that said, see you guys in the next video.